So our REST API is taking shape. We added quite some routes and logic already. But if we take a look at our plan here, we can see that there are still a couple of features that are missing, a couple of routes that are missing. For example, the user-related routes or the routes for registering and the entire authentication and that route protection that should be added. And of course, all these remaining features that are missing in the end depend on the existence of users. Without users, we can't register and we can't protect routes. So it's time to work on these two user routes here, the sign up and the login route. Now for that, back in the project, I'll start here in register routes. And here we can start with the sign up route, where I want to accept post requests to /signup. And the goal here is to create new users. And of course, new users should then also be stored in the database. Hence, I will actually go to the db.go file and make sure that we create another new table, a table where users can be stored. So in here, before I create my events table, I will create my users table. I will prepare the SQL statement for doing that. And the statement that should be executed, the command that should be executed, is create table if not exists. And now here the name is users. That's the table name I want to use. And then in there, I want to have a couple of columns that describe a user. Starting with an ID. Every user should have an ID. And that should be of type integer. It should be the primary key of that table. And it should be set automatically by having an auto-incrementing integer. So just as we have it here in the events table. But then every user should also have an email, which in the end is just a piece of text, which must not be null and which should be unique, so that we cannot have more than one user with the same email address. And then we have the password, which is also text and also not null. That's the statement for creating the users table. Now, of course, we must execute it by using db exec and by passing create users table to this exec method. And then we'll get back a result and potentially an error, which I of course want to handle. And I want to panic if something goes wrong here. So here we can say could not create users table, like this. Now we should also update the code below that, because now that we have users, we can establish a better connection between the events table and the users table. We already have that user ID field in there, but now I also want to make it very clear with the foreign key clause that this user ID here will reference a value from the users table. To be precise, there, the ID field. And that's how you set this up in SQL, how you establish such a connection in SQL, so to say. In addition, we also must edit the code down there, because error now already exists. This variable is created here, so therefore here we need the normal assignment operator. But that's now the updated logic for initializing the database, and therefore I will delete the existing database file. And that's the great thing about SQLite. You can just delete the file and it will be recreated and you got a new schema. That's amazing. And we can now work on that sign up logic.